Okay, so 2013, I quit my job and I went to Tanzania. Suddenly, right? I just wanted to get on the continent. Everything wasn't perfect. I didn't have all the money saved up, but I was like, man, I just ready to go. You know, I want to reconnect. I just had that calling, right? So prior to me going to Tanzania, I had constipation issues for years, more than a decade. I got like serious constipation issues and I can't figure it out. And prior to going to Africa, I had adopted the vegan lifestyle, right? Eating plant-based food. I was drinking a lot of water. I was eating very delicately. As a man, I don't even like a lot of rice and potatoes, you know. I was eating like a lot of raw food, a lot of fruits and vegetables. And like I say, even when it comes to rice, you know, minimum. When it comes to potatoes, minimum. You know, really delicate, soft foods. And I drink in an adequate amount of water all the time. So this constipation issue that was plaguing me, man, it freaking me out. I cannot understand it. You know, I should not be having constipation. That's what I was telling myself, because I know how I eating. You know what I mean? So I can't figure it out, man. And I was so desperate. I went and I had a colonoscopy done, right? Which is where they insert a tube up your behind, you know, to check to see what's going on. I remember being so disappointed with the doctor dismissing me, telling me nothing wrong with you. You know, you fine. And me, I know I have constipation now. I mean, it was bad, right? So anyway, I still can't figure it out. I still suffering. I go to Tanzania. So now I move in with a family of Rastafarians. And these were some of the original Rastafarians in Tanzania. A whole family of Rastas. This guy named Ikabunga. So I noticed they didn't use toilet paper, right? So I asked the brother, I was like, you know, where y'all dealing with the situation when you defecate? So the brother explained to me that they use water, okay? So I was like, okay, I in Africa, I ain't scared of my body. I'm gonna start using water too. So I started using water to clean myself. Now, keep this in mind. Most people, when they start using toilet paper, that never changes. They use toilet paper for the duration of their lives. Until they die, they're using it. They never stop. That's something that's not interrupted, right, for most people. So this is the first time ever in my life I stopped using toilet paper. You know, when I stopped using toilet paper, what happened? Constipation disappeared instantly. I started going to the bathroom easier than I ever did in my life. Easier than I ever did in my life. I mean, as soon as I finish eating, I gotta go to the bathroom. The session is over in less than a minute, right? I never had such ease going to the bathroom. So now when I come back to America, because I was back and forth between America and Africa after that initial visit, when I come back to the States now, I'm noticing that constipation start again. So I here trying to figure it out. I like, man, what changed? What did I change? And then it occurred to me, I start using toilet paper again when I come back to the States. And that is when I had the epiphany. That's when the light bulb went off. And I like, oh, it's the toilet paper that was causing that. And then I did the research to find out what's in it. Come to find out, it's full of toxic chemicals. It's actually made from garbage, right? Toilet paper is made from recycled paper. Recycled paper, that has a fancy name for garbage. And they just put it in a machine, add bleach to it and other chemicals, and then they're selling it to us like it's brand new, right? And it's white, so our whole lives we have this association with white paper. We thinking that it's clean, but toilet paper is actually more toxic than the defecation that's coming out of your body, you know, right? And that's what's giving men prostate cancer. That's why everybody getting it. Because everybody in the whole society, nationwide, uses toilet paper. It doesn't make a difference if you're an athlete, if you're rich, if you're poor, you know what I'm saying? If you're literate, illiterate, everybody uses toilet paper. And that's why all the men is getting it, especially the black demographic. So we have to stop using these things immediately and educate ourselves about the correct alternatives like bidets, bamboo toilet paper, unbleached toilet paper. You know, you have to get away from it, because if you don't, most men, they already have it developing in their body right now, most of the population, because we've been using it for decades, right? So That was a lesson I could have only learned in Africa. If I had stayed here, it would never occur to me to stop using toilet paper. I would have never made that connection, right? So those are two connections, giving you an example of how important it is to trod yourself, because what are your lessons going to be? What are you going to learn? What are your observations going to be when you see the contrast in liberty in them zone versus what we've been used to and taken for granted over here that's been poison and toxic?
So, is there just one ingredient in the toilet tissue that makes it dangerous, or is it a combination of ingredients that puts our health at risk when utilizing it?
Yeah, definitely. The most lethal of the chemicals that's in the toilet paper, it's a mix of chemicals, it's a chemical compound. But one of the most lethal chemicals in it is this chemical called dioxin, dioxin. This is a carcinogenic chemical. And this is the chemical that was one of the main constituents of this chemical called Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a chemical that America used in the Vietnam War. It's a herbicide, right? So that's a chemical that kills plants. So this herbicide, America sprayed 80 million gallons of it in Vietnam. And this was in between like 1960 and 1970, right? Over like a 10-year duration. 80 million gallons of it, they spread over in the environment because this chemical is a defoliant. It makes the leaves, it kills trees and makes their leaves fall off. So they were using it strategically so they could see where the enemy was, where the Viet Cong was in their military operations, right? So 50 years later now, the Vietnamese, even though the war is finished, right? The war, I think, finished in 1971. Even 50 years later, these Vietnamese people, they're still getting birth defects because of the exposure to the chemical. Even like horrific birth defects, right? Because this chemical dioxin is in a class of chemicals that they call forever chemicals. They don't break down in the environment. These things like last like hundreds of years, man. And it's true, you know, based upon what we're seeing in Vietnam. 50 years later, these people still getting, like, for example, there was one man, he had 5 sons. None of them could, all of them were deaf mute. None of them could talk, you know, or hear. This one lady, she had like 5 children. All of them were born without eyes. You know, some really horrific birth defects based on this chemical dioxin. And that's one of the same chemicals that's in the toilet paper. In addition to formaldehyde, BPA, they got a whole bunch of acronyms for these deadly chemicals. And when the chemicals mix in, the scientists can't even predict what type of effect it's going to have. And these chemicals, they're so toxic that they have effects in just small amounts. It could just be like a tiny amount, like a billionth of a gram of dioxin kills a guinea pig. You know, even these tiny amounts. So we really have to, you know, focus on cleansing the body and getting off of these chemicals, man, because you're killing yourself. And the irony in it is that you're paying for it now, right? You're paying for toilet paper. You know, you're paying to go to the doctor when you have a problem. You know, you're paying for the medicine the doctor is going to give you. You're paying for the surgery to get your prostate taken out. You know, you're paying for the doctor to castrate you. You know, you're paying with anguish. You're paying with, you know, misery. You know, you're paying with, I mean, look, man, you're paying the ultimate price. Then you're paying with your life. You know, but then you're paying with your life, man. So it's time to wake up and realize that, man, we live in an age of chemical warfare. And we have to identify some of the things that we've been used to our whole lives and begin changing our lifestyle so that we're not exposed to these chemicals, man. Because people getting killed, wiped out basically, by standards that they never investigate. We're just taking these things for granted.
So, for those who want to switch it up and try something outside of what they've known their whole life, which is utilizing toilet tissue, what would be an alternative, or, you know, the right way, basically, to clean oneself? What do you recommend?
Okay, excellent question. Okay, transitioning from toilet paper. The best thing to use is water, okay, to clean yourself. When you think about it, when you think about the steps in washing something, the last step is rinsing, right? Like when you wash dishes, the last step you gotta rinse your dishes, man. If you're washing a car, the last step you gotta rinse the car off, right? After you suds it up. When you take a shower, the last step you have to rinse your body off, right? You're not coming out of the shower with soap all over your body. When you wash your hair, you gotta rinse your hair, man. When you brush your teeth, you gotta rinse out your mouth at the end. So in this European governed civilization that we in, they're teaching us that the last step after defecation isn't rinsing but wiping. We're just smearing the poop around on our butt cheeks. That's all we're doing. That's not actually hygiene. That's an unhygienic state. And not just unhygienic, that's a carcinogenic state because you're giving yourself cancer now, right? So what real hygiene, you have to use water at the end, which just makes sense. Like I say, you're rinsing your car off, that's the last step. You're rinsing your dishes, you're rinsing your body off. How you gonna clean something without rinsing? You eating off a plate that has not been rinsed? Definitely not, right? We're making sure that plate is clean and rinsed before we put food on it, because that's a pristine state. So we have to get used to using water now as the last step after we defecate. Okay, so you have to get yourself a bidet, B-I-D-E-T. They sell them in, Amazon, Lowe's, Home Depot, less than $20. It's basically like a water hose that attaches to the inlet valve on the toilet. So it's clean water coming out this hose, and you use it, to clean yourself when you finish defecating. That's one alternative. Next, you have bamboo toilet paper that's unbleached. That's purportedly safer, right? And I ain't advocating that you go and buy their products. Investigate it to confirm there's nothing toxic in it, okay? Because the anus, the area that we wipe in, that's a very delicate area. That's a moist area. So anything that we put there is being absorbed into the body. Anything that touches that area is being absorbed into your body. And your prostate is right on the opposite side of where we wipe in. So that's why when you use toilet paper, let's say you use toilet paper 3 times a day. 3 times 365 is 1,095, right? Basically 1,100 times a year. Minimum that you use toilet paper, you're wiping it here 1,100 times a year. You multiply 1,100 times 50, that's 55,000 times that you wipe this chemical dioxin onto your anus, and your prostate right on the other side. Your prostate has to be swelling up. And that's what causes erectile dysfunction, constipation, and eventually prostate cancer. UTI is a whole range of problems. So we have to transition to using the bidets and these alternative toilet papers like the bamboo toilet paper. But again, just confirm, for the toilet paper, even if it's made from bamboo and it's not bleached, you still have to look at what processes were used in creating it to make sure there are no irritants or chemicals in it.